albinos call him Whitey. Fox News contributor Tom Shalhoub. He's half Irish and half Korean, meaning he only does his laundry on St. Patrick's Day. Comedian Steve Byrne. She's had more bad dates than a 3-year-old fruitcake. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Kat Tiff. And he doesn't know the meaning of the words stepladder. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion Tyrus. Tom, thank you for being on the show. First of all, when you don't wear your jacket, you look like you're a guy on a Saturday morning infomercial selling nonstick pans. Doesn't he?
The eggs slide right out.
Yes.
I used to do that in malls.
I bet you did.
I would demonstrate cookware in malls.
Yeah, and that was totally voluntary.
Exactly.
Had nothing to do with a company. So we have not talked at all, right, since this horrible, horrible tragedy, crime occurred, and I'm very curious. You're an optimist. You see the glass half full. Where's the glass?
Well, you know what? I'm so glad I haven't been around here because I was doing shows this weekend, and people were saying to me, what, you had to do comedy shows this weekend? Because we have been, and I think we're still in shock. You have to acknowledge that you're in shock. You know, you usually you look back later and you're like, wow, I was like going through it then. And so it was actually easier to do comedy shows than be on Fox News because I didn't want to come in and talk about the same old issues. Yeah. That's why it's been great to kind of tune in with you. You've been mentioning this, that you can't go back to the old arguments. You can't just sit down and say, oh, well, let's debate this, let's debate. It's ridiculous. And so we were in shock over the senseless murder, but then it was the double shock when I was trying to avoid social media. I didn't want to look at this stuff. But then when I finally did, and then you see people and they're reacting in such a bizarre way. Yeah. Like they're not human. Yeah. You know? So it was like double shock. So I'm glad that I wasn't around here, but you know, I've been kind of getting back into it. And the interesting thing, you tweeted out this story by John Nolte on Breitbart. Yeah. Such a great and interesting message because he was saying what I was feeling when I was in shock, which was there's nothing to say. We all know what happened. It's not time to like, oh, what happened here? Oh, let's discuss what happened. We all know what happened. So he talked about the idea that we're not going back, like you just said. We're not going to go back to the old arguments. We're not going to listen to this nonsense anymore because in the past, when a tragedy would happen, all of a sudden there was this forced idea of we're going to unify. Right. But like Nolte said, and I loved it, he said they didn't want to unify. They wanted fealty. The difference between unity and fealty, they wanted everyone to say, you know, now I'm going to play by your rules. Now we're going to get in here. That's why it's amazing that when you've been looking at these comments, I'm talking about the real people, not the people who are, you know, laughing about death, not the people who were sane people on the left. And they were saying, well, look, one thing I'll say about him is that he wasn't debating in good faith. I don't know how many times I saw that on the internet. He wasn't debating in good faith because in a good faith debate, you both come together and you come to a mutual agreement. That's not what debate is. Debate is not a mutual agreement. Debate is ideas against other ideas. And you want to win the debate with ideas. That's why we love debate so much. People who come to an agreement, that's people at war. That's a negotiation. The left doesn't understand the difference because they are at permanent war. Really?
I mean, it was okay. Steve, welcome back. What are your thoughts on this? You know, you're also a comedian, and or so you claim.
So I claim, yes. Yes. Yeah, I pretend to be. Look, I think it's one of those, you know, moments that are ingrained where it's like, I will not forget that day. You know, I lived here September 11th. I won't forget that day. I won't forget what happened that day. I think it's just the disparity of accountability. There's just seemingly there's no accountability from you know, the left on this. And that's what kind of, it just, I don't know, it definitely bums me out because I think the accountability shifts again to the right. It's like, well, the Republicans, this is your fault because you appreciate the Second Amendment. And after watching it all from a macro bird's eye perspective, I think they got it wrong. I think the Democrats This happened because the Democrats have a lack of appreciation for the First Amendment. That's my thought process.
Yeah.
But to your point, there was no rioting.
Yeah.
There was no mayhem. And before there was rioting, I'm not going to say who did it, but there was rioting in Minnesota. There was rioting in Philadelphia. And everything at like the Target stores was all taken out except for the country music CDs. So,
So what you're saying is it was Koreans.
well, hey, the last war the Koreans won were the LA riots. So.
That's funny. Kat, is it possible to reach people who realize they're in a negative bubble? Like, I keep thinking from an idealist perspective that there's a lot of people that just want to let go of this stuff, that are on the other side, that want to be happy. But can they be persuaded?
I think that some can. I think that of course, you would agree that not all Democrats are celebrating this.
Oh, of course not.
Of course, right?
Just 87.3%.
Well, I would say maybe the loudest, most disgusting voices are maybe getting that percentage of the attention.
Of course, yeah.
And there was just someone on ABC saying that he found the text messages touching.
His name's Gutman.
To think that was, I don't find them touching.
Yes.
I don't think it's a normal response.
He
to
made
find
it
those
sound like it
touching.
was a Hallmark Channel romance.
So I think, and I've thought about this a lot, and I understand the anger and I understand the exhaustion of people on the right, because it is difficult to have conversations because people on the left will sometimes say, I don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Even me as an independent, simply because I work here and I do have friends who are MAGA and I have loved ones who are MAGA, that is enough to throw me away as irredeemable. And it can be difficult in those moments to have conversations with people. And you might be noticing all that, but you have to notice that it doesn't represent everyone. And if you think, as I think and as you have said, that Charlie was all about having conversations with people even when you disagree, then we should want to do that even when it's hard. And again, I am talking about when that is possible.
Yeah.
I'm talking about those times when it's possible, in those good faith moments. At the same time, do understand the anger, and I do understand the exhaustion.
Yeah, I think like the hard part here, Tyrus, is that he was having a conversation with them and was murdered.
Well, he was giving the opposition the same platform.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we have to be careful of is that we don't become what we hate.
Yeah.
Because something like this is you're angry. And there is still a responsibility because they want to suck you in. And one of the things we have to stop doing is we have to stop grouping. We have to pull that blanket back. Because when you say it's the left, you take away accountability from the shooter. He's the reason this happened, and whomever's connected to him. What happens is when you blanket things, you take the humanity out of it. When you say, well, the left is racist. But if you named the individuals that are actually doing the things, people on the left be like, hey, I'm not that guy. But when you say it's all the left, well, I'm not, that's not me. So you're including me. So then they're going to fight back. So what we have to really look at is one of the favorite words they like to use over the last 6 years is root causes. Like root causes. What we're seeing now is that we missed when this generation that seems to be the ones who are doing the violence, at one point they were victims because they were children in school systems being groomed to think this way. And now what happens in any situation, when someone is abused and groomed, eventually they age out and they move on to the next group. Then you have this group of lost young men who thought things were one way. They're not this way. They're confused and lost, and they go back to where they think they matter. And it seems, and they hear these words that now they're martyrdom because it's a blanket. You're part of the left. You're a soldier. You have to beat the right, but they never say anybody's names. So one of the things I think in hearing all this, we have to do the one thing we can do as the party in control right now is go back to law and order. We need to look at qualified immunity. They wanted to take it away from the police. But we needed the Supreme Court or someone to come in and say, yes, you have free speech. But if you are a politician and you are running to represent other people and you use language that incites riots or incites violence, you should be held accountable to that. You can say what you want to say, but if you, not the left, if I sit up there and say, horrible things about someone that I'm competing for a spot for. None of it's true, and it leads to somebody at the bottom of our society that whatever I say they believe is gospel. And they go out and they commit a crime in the name of the left or in the name of stopping the fascists or whatever Nazi group we're called. There needs to be a connective, like, hey, you're responsible for this. Because if it was individual and there was real life consequences for these words, it wouldn't be the left. These senators who would come out and say, oh, yeah, I didn't agree with them, but I think it's wrong. They'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I adamantly do not condone. They would come out in droves.
Yeah.
It wouldn't just be Fetterman.
Yeah.
It would be all of them because there's an individual responsibility. We have to put responsibility back on the individuals and stop blanketing everything.
Excellent points.
Want even more Fox News on YouTube? Become a Fox News Patriot today. Click join to find out how.